Hey, good day, everybody, and welcome to our Gimmal Education session for May 8th. My name is Marcia Shields, and I'm from our Customer Success team. Our goal for these sessions are to enhance your expertise with your Gimmal software. This session is being recorded and will be shared after the event. You can also find all of our recordings out on our Gimmal YouTube channel. Jeff Tuish is with me today. Jeff is going to be your subject matter expert for all things Gimmal Discover. Today, Jeff is going to be talking about how Gimmal Discover supports robust email compliance and simplifies retention policy management. If you have any questions during Jeff's presentation, please look at the bottom of your Zoom bar and post them in the Q&A area. I will be looking at that and keeping monitor, and we will tee those up after Jeff is finished. Next slide, Jeff. Just a reminder, or for those who are joining for the first time, we're still running our Gimmal All-Star program for this year. So just by attending today's session, you have earned Gimmal points. Once you reach 3,000 points, you get the coveted Gimmal All-Star pin. So we want to reward you a little bit for your efforts. Thank you very much. Presentation today will be about 15-20 minutes, and then we'll tee up questions for the following 10. First, before I technically hand this off to Jeff, we'd love your input on this topic since we're talking about email today. So I put out a poll question, and if you could take a minute to answer this, we'd appreciate it. Today's question is, what is your organization's current status in the email policy retention lifecycle? Jeff, I'm going to let that run as other people join, and I can report those results later to everybody. And I think that's all for me. I'm going to hand it off to you.
Great. Thanks, Marcia.
You bet.
All right, everybody. So we're going to be talking today about email retention compliance. So this is one of the things near and dear to my heart, and something I've been working with for 27 years. So for those of you who are doing the math, yes, I was 12 when I started. And what we're going to be talking about is not only what Discover can do, but some of the things to think about regarding email and how you do your methodology with it. So we have a lot of decisions to make. We're going to be talking about all those different types of decisions as they go through. And then at the end, I'm going to show you a little visualization report that I pulled up in Power BI that gives you some insight as to what you could see within your environment. So first, talking about the rollout process. So you'll see two choices here, aggressive or progressive. I'm a fan of progressive. And the cold turkey method, the aggressive method, not recommended. So what does that mean? What that means is that say that you've never had an email retention policy, and suddenly you're going to implement one and say anything older than 1 year, we're going to delete. That is probably not going to be culturally accepted very well. So what we typically recommend is to say, okay, you know what? We're going to eventually get to the 1 year retention, but let's start out with deleting anything older than 15 years, and then 10 years, and then 5 years, and keep, as I like to call it, tightening the screws until you get down to the true desired retention policy. So that's what I recommend for the rolling it out. Once again, just all of a sudden going and deleting 90% of messages, that usually gets some pushback for some people. So just to give us some thought regarding that. The next part is the policy methodology. So that is your choices once again. So when I first started doing email management years ago, I actually saw the top one, the two-step deletion policy. So going through, and let me give you a chronology here. So say, for instance, on the first and third Saturdays of the month, you would go through and perform an analysis, move the messages that are in the inbox, sent items, personal folders, whatever they might be, move them into a to-be-deleted folder structure, and then on the second and fourth Saturdays, empty that to-be-deleted structure. So basically gives the users a chance to see what's going to be deleted before it is. In addition, we also used to see a lot of companies sending out notifications to the clients, to the users themselves, and letting them know about their email. So that's a possibility as well. Discover can do that. What we see more common now is the one-step process. And what that is the companies communicate to your users saying, hey, on this date, we're going to start rolling out a 2-year policy, and it happens whether you like it or not, and we're not going to tell you anything in the future about it. So it just goes through and performs that perpetual cleanup of the email. So either one is good. It's your choice on culturally whether or not you need to tell the users what's going to happen, as well as putting things into that to be deleted structure. And let me say, when we do this, say that a message came from the inbox. Well, what we don't want to do, what I recommend you don't do actually, is in the to be deleted folder, just put things directly in there. Instead, you can duplicate the structure under to be deleted that matches where the message was found to begin with. So there'd be a to be deleted / inbox folder, to be deleted / sent items. So it gives the users a chance to know from where those messages came. So just give us some thought on that. You can also do all of that with Discover. Okay, then we get into some more decisions on how we want to do this. So first, let's talk about scheduling. Within Discover, you can do any of these frequencies that you like. What we see typically is on a weekly basis. Daily seems to be overkill, and a lot of times monthly does not meet with the compliance restrictions that your company might have. So weekly seems to be it, and you can certainly do that with Discover. And the whole point of all this email management is to get into a set it and forget it mode. What I mean by that is have the administrator configure this and then be done with it. There's no babysitting it. There's nothing they have to do each week to make sure that it runs. It gets put on a perpetual scheduled process and it happens. So definitely advise doing that. Then I'm going to go down to the mailboxes. So you can enforce the same retention in every mailbox in the company. That is unusual. What we typically see is that there are going to be a group of people that have either a different retention or none whatsoever. So once again, that's going to be probably legal, maybe risk, whoever might be making those decisions on that. But a lot of times you'll see the three groups that are most often excluded from this. So just to give us some insight, what you can also do is you can go through and say, for the general population, you're going to get 90 days on the inbox. For HR, we're going to give you 180. For legal, 365. And for the C-suite, we're going to exclude you altogether from that. So keep in mind that you don't have to do a one-size-fits-all. You can certainly comply with what your cultural needs are with Discover. You can have that conform to whatever you need within that process. So keep that in mind that you can go through all of that. Out of office status, we have seen people leverage this. Gimmal Discover can tell somebody's out of the office. So what's that mean? What that means is that say somebody maybe not on vacation or a sick day, but maybe on long-term disability or a sabbatical, something of length. And what you can do is you can actually, in Gimmal Discover, bypass them based upon their out of office status being equal to true. So you can and basically exclude them during that process, but then once they come back, then they'll be re-engaged with that. So just a thought that you could do that, your choice on that totally. And keep in mind in all of this, I'm a measure 20 times, cut once kind of guy. So what you would do first is do an analysis and make sure that you can perfect your whole process before you start deleting. I'm going to tell you a story here. So we had an old product that was working on IBM Domino years and years ago, and somebody set it up and they did it wrong. And the next morning we got a call saying, hey, the email administrator misconfigured the product and every message in Africa was deleted. So they didn't do an analysis first. They didn't do any kind of check and balance. They just went in and delete. Definitely do an analysis. In fact, you have to intentionally configure Discover to delete. So it has to be a decision that you make as opposed to it just happening. By default, it's only going to be an analysis. Then we get into the folders. So you'll see the system folders. I like to call them system folders. Those are the ones that come with Exchange stock, inbox, sent items, drafts, calendar, deleted items. There's many of those. Tasks are also in that list. So do you want to delete messages from those folders? Or do you want to include the next step down, the personal folders, things that the users themselves have made? And obviously you're not going to know the names of those, but what we can do is you can say in Discover, I want to only affect the personal folders. And basically what we do is we eliminate the ones that we know are system folders and process everything else. Once again, do that in analysis mode to make sure that the proper folders are being processed. Business records, legal holds. We see some companies go out and have Gimmal Discover create folders within every mailbox that are called business records legal holds, and allowing the users to be empowered to drag messages into those folders, and they might be totally excluded from any of the deletion process. You're always going to find that one user that says, oh, if I do that, then I'll put all of my messages in the business records or legal holds folder. Yes, I have seen that happen. And one of the things that Gimmal Discover can do is monitor the business records, legal holds, whatever you call these folders, to make sure that there is not a plethora of messages and somebody's abusing that process. You can also exclude things. If you don't want to do particular folders, then you can certainly make that choice as well. So you have carte blanche on all these decisions that you get to make. And once again, they could be per group, per person, or overall for everybody in the company. One more set of decisions before we actually, nope, two more sets. I'll take that back. A lot of decisions here. So the next one is, okay, now let's get down to the nitty gritty. How are we going to enforce? What are we going to interrogate about a message to determine, is this a deletion candidate? And most likely you're going to have age in there. And there are 3 different ages that you could use. One is highly recommended. So received. So your first thought is, well, what about sent items? When I send an item, it doesn't have a receive date. Yeah, actually it does. So every message that has been routed has a receive date. And when I mean routed, you look at things like if I make an appointment in my calendar, that was not sent to anybody. That is in essence a draft. So that would not have a receive date. Could you use created and modified? You can, but keep in mind what users could do once again to get around the system, and they will find ways, is to cut and paste the messages back into the mailbox, which changes their creation and modified date. So those are properties of the message, whereas the received is a value in the message that they can't alter. You could also, once again, use the sent items if you want. You can do the read, unread status. And we have seen that, people saying, I only want to delete messages older than 3 years old that have been read. And my first thing I always question them with, so 3 years and it hasn't been read, is it really viable still just because the person hasn't read it? So that's very uncommon for that to be used, but it is a possibility. And then we get into the different types of messages. We collectively call them messages, but they're basically items. So we have a message, which is an email, a reply, a forward, any of that. A calendar entry, which is a meeting, of course. Repeating meetings can also be managed and acknowledged and also excluded. So the last thing we want Discover to be doing is deleting a repeating meeting that hasn't happened yet. So that's one of the decisions that you can make, exclude those. And then if you're doing tasks, you can also say, hey, has it been completed or non-completed? So you can use that to be able to help make decisions. Once again, you have a lot of exclusions you could do on folders, on messages, and those can be done using content, maybe domain names, maybe senders. Any metadata that's associated with a message can be interrogated to say whether or not you want to process it. So keep that in mind. You have a lot of power in this whole process. All right, this is the last set of decisions. So notifications. If you need to, you can have Gimmal Discover provide notifications before or after the deletion process occurred. So once again, if we're doing a to be deleted folder, we want to say, hey, tell the users what's going to happen. Basically, we'll come back and say 96 messages in your inbox and 112 in your sent items have been moved to the to be deleted folder. Check them out if you need to keep them longer and drag them somewhere else. So if you give them that ability, it gives them that chance. You can also just give them boilerplate and saying, you're receiving this email due to our retention policy enforcement and blah, 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 or be specific with that. But here's the irony of using Discover to send notifications. The thing I find ironic is that we're going to be sending an email to tell them that we're deleting their email. So we're sort of contributing with an extra message that we can do. But then your question could be, can we have a policy that goes through and cleans up the emails that come from Gimmal Discover to the user and have a very short retention? Yes, you can. So you could do that as well. So keep that in mind. And then lastly, we can go through and do reports. And I'm going to be showing you the reports in Power BI, one of my favorite new tools, to give you some visualization of all that. But we can do reports at the mailbox level, at the folder level, at the message level, whatever you want for all of this. I'm working with somebody right now, and they want to be able to see a list of all the domains that are being sending in the messages that are over a certain age. So you can do a lot of things with Discover, once again, interrogating all that metadata. Okay, once we made some decisions, now we're ready to act. And what do we do to act? Well, we can go through and you basically have two choices. You could go and take action on a folder and you'll see the choices: create, delete, or empty. Empty meaning get rid of all the messages within it. So basically deleting the content without deleting the folder, whereas delete will actually delete the folder and the content. So yes, Discover can be used to create folders or delete the folder themselves, but more than likely you're going to go over to the message level. And this is where you can perform some other things in here. So you can perform a deletion. Typically we see it as a hard delete. You've given the user notice. They are aware that your policy is being enforced, and you don't need to put it in their deleted items for them to bring it back home. So if you need to do that, you can. So Discover can certainly allow the user to be able to put things and make it resurrect it, basically, if they want. But most likely it's going to be a hard delete. And then you have some other choices. We could copy and move messages to another folder in the same mailbox. That's what we're doing with the to be deleted items. We can copy and move messages to another mailbox. So if you have a mailbox and we want to go out and look at content, we haven't talked about content, but in content, Discover can crack open the message, even the attachments within it, and look for particular keywords, phrases, Boolean expressions, or even regex to be able to find content that you say, oh my gosh, even though this message is older than the retention we have, it has to do with something that we need to retain it longer. So maybe what you want to do is get that out of the user's mailbox, because email is very user-centric and the user has a lot of power to do things you might not want them to do, such as deleting one of these messages. So maybe either copy or move that to another mailbox that they don't have rights to, so that message is protected. You could also move it to an online archive. So the online archives that come with M365, you could put them there. And I'm sure the question arises then, can Discover manage the archive content? Absolutely. So you can set up a whole different set of policies for the archive, different than the one for the mailboxes. And then lastly, the copy move the PST. This is becoming not quite as popular because a lot of companies are trying to get rid of PSTs, because basically now they're distributed data and they're sitting possibly on somebody's hard drive, but it is a possibility that you can leverage if you want. So that's what I wanted to talk about with that. Now I'm going to go ahead and jump over and show you my lovely little Power BI thing that I put together. So no mocking, if you will. But what I did was, this is just going out and assuming that somebody had an email retention of 3 years and they wanted to get an indication, what do we have out there? I want to know what we have. To me, it's very dark. I don't understand what's in the mailboxes. I don't have access to the mailboxes. Give me some insight. So what I did with this is I wrote a workflow in Gimmal Discover. The workflow does all of the processing. That's where you do your interrogation of the metadata and the content. And I said, produce a report. And then I exported that report to CSV format and ingested it into this template for Power BI. So this is what we give our clients. And they say, hey, I want to go out and do this. And the age ranges obviously can be changed. And what we do, this is all templatized. So we put the workflow on their environment, we run it against their mailboxes, and we give them these reports as artifacts so they have a chance to digest what they're seeing out there and maybe make some decisions based upon it. So you'll see on the left-hand side just saying how many mailboxes did we search, how many total messages across all those mailboxes, how many were in folders that the users made, how many were in folders that came with Exchange, and the total size of all that. And then the messaging stats, just going through and giving you some idea of what we found out there, different age ranges, and then breaking down the messages for the ones that we processed, which were over the 3-5 years. So this is going to be, the total up here is full inventory, whereas the processing is only the ones older than 3 to 5. So just showing you some insight on all those. And other, in fact, I was asked this earlier today by somebody, what does other mean for types? Well, there are tasks, there are contacts, there are journals, there's different types of items, and we just broke down the major 3 in here. So then showing you some insight of whether or not they were internal or external messages. So we can look at the domain of the sender and be able to say, well, that was sent internally or it came from the outside. So that's what we're breaking down here. And then showing you the different folders, all these ones that come stock with Exchange. And then the ones that are personal, we aggregate all those up. And then breaking down the messages with some nice pie charts by their age range, by their type. Notice the different types represented here. So that's where others came from, sticky notes and contacts, what have you. And then by where we found most of the messages, the bulk was inside of folders that the user made, which is very typical. And then we get into the stats. So this is just doing an inventory of the mailboxes. So we're not doing anything and saying, how old is a message? This is how many messages do we have? Who's the hoarder? In this case, Robert Williams obviously does not know how to use the delete key in his keyboard. He's got 203,000 messages in his mailbox. So you can get an idea here of who has what and far as volume and size. And then lastly, going over, and this is my favorite one to do, and this is it's called a slicer for those of you who are not familiar with Power BI. And what I can do is that based upon the values that I choose for the age range or the folder name, these statistics are going to adjust accordingly. So as you see, as I click additional things, these numbers are increasing. So it just gives you some nice insight to get an idea, once again, of what do I have out there. So now maybe the client can say, okay, this gives me some good information. I'm going to start out and delete anything older than 10 years. I know we can do those, and then we'll delete other things as we progress through the process. So that's what I wanted to show you today regarding this. Let me go ahead and get back into the slideshow and get to Q&A because I know we are running out of time. So let me go ahead and advance that. There we go. Marcia,
Yeah,
back to
you're
you.
good, Jeff. Yeah, great information and right, near and dear to our hearts. We've been doing this a long time. Yes, if you have questions, there's still time to post them in the Q&A, but we do have some for you, Jeff. So I'm going to
Okay.
tee those up, put you in the hot seat.
Okie dokie.
First one is, can Discover check the out of office status so users who are out of office can be excluded?
Absolutely, yes. So be sure you can do that. And it's a very simple process because Discover has the ability, when we look at the mailbox, to decide, hey, is this out of office? And if it is, it's a very useful thing to do, like I was saying earlier, for people who are on long or short-term disability or sabbatical, because you, in essence, could be deleting messages, depending on how restrictive your policy is, you could be deleting things before they have a chance to see them.
Okay, great. Second question is, can there be a different retention for the same folder dependent on the user?
Yes. In fact, you could get as granular, which I would not do this administratively. You could have a separate policy for every folder for every person. So if you wanted to do that, you can. Typically, it's done at the group level, or if you're lucky enough, it's done at the company level. Most likely, it's going to be a group of users that have different retentions for the same folder.
Okay. Here's another one. How can the users be notified of, or can they be notified if their items are going to be deleted?
Yes, you can. And once again, this is a thing that's culturally is changing over the years. And initially, like I was saying earlier, they a lot of times would tell the users what's going to happen before it does. Now it's more of, we're going to send you out one email telling you we're enforcing the policy, and you're going to see messages deleted every weekend, and adapt, because we're not going to tell you about how many we did for you or any of that, though you can do that. But most common is to just send out that initial email and you never hear from the retention policy program again. You just see your messages disappearing.
Yeah, I remember that from back in the day selling Discover. People would get that asked a lot, because people would be almost afraid to not give some grace period. So that's great.
Correct. And it's
Um,
funny because, Marcia, well, honestly,
yeah.
it's sort of like for those of you who have ever had kids and you ask them to do something, they say, why? And eventually say, because I said so. That's a good reason. So that's what it comes down to, because sometimes the user will just keep peppering you with questions. Well, how about if I can you exclude me out of this? And that's not your decision to make. Quite honestly, that's legal and compliance that
Yeah,
needs to make that rule up so everybody can follow it.
great. Okay, I have one more for you, Jeff. And this is
Okay.
it's interesting. I know we're talking about, it says we're talking about email today, but can Discover enforce policies beyond things of like outside of email, like file shares, OneDrive were the examples?
Yes. So right now, Gimmal Discover, let's see if I can name all these off. Discover can remediate data out of any M365 data source, which includes Exchange Online, SharePoint, OneDrive, and Teams, and also in file shares, so Windows file shares, Windows and Mac endpoints, so laptops, desktops, PST files, Gmail, Box, Google Drive. I'm hoping that's the last one because I can't think of any more, but I think
I
that's,
think you covered them.
did I get them all? Awesome.
Let's hope. Yeah, we'll have to play the recording back and make sure. But
And then I'll realize I missed one. Yes.
yeah, no, we're good. Okay. That's all the questions. You know what? I did want to share out the results of our poll question.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully people can see this, but the question was, what is your organization's current status in the email policy retention lifecycle? It's a mixed bag. 29% say they were fully enforced. 14% say they are partially enforced. 36% limited enforcement, and 21% not enforced. And we've had 93% participation. So that's really good information. Thank you
It
all
really
for
is.
doing that.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have, let's see, I want to do one more thing here, if I can. I was going to share. Okay, here we go. All right. Yeah, thank you, Jeff, for teeing that up. And I also posted another question. Gimmal goes to a lot of events. So if you all have any input on events that you'd be at, we'd really be appreciated to know that. Make sure that we're going to the right events for everybody. But that's really the close of the session today. We really thank you for attending. We hope you enjoyed this and learned some things about Gimmal Discover you might not have known before. Here's the upcoming remaining sessions for Q2. There will be Gimmal Physical. We had a new release recently. So the May 22nd event is a hot topic. Thank you. Talking about the disposition workflows. And then we'll be working on Q3 education sessions coming up, so you can keep an eye out for information in the near future on that. If you have any suggestions for topics that you would like us to present to you, please send them. We're always looking for ideas to make sure that we're on target for what you want to learn about and what would help you best. So that's it for today. Thank you all for attending, and we will see you next time.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Stay safe.
Bye.